Yeah, welcome to the 4 Point Plan. It is Sunday, December 6th, 2020, and we are working on episode 23 of the 4 Point Plan. Everybody, welcome back to the 4 Point Plan. I'm super excited to get into it today. Always excited to be here with all you wonderful, lovely people. We are going to tell you about a plan that we have designed that will change your life, give you a life worth living, give you a life beyond your wildest dreams. And as always, I'm joined by my awesome co-hosts, my good friends, Guy. Say hello, Guy.
Hello, Guy. Hello, world. Hello, 4 Pointers.
That's right. Look at the 4 Point Plan happening over in Guy's world. And Sean, good morning and welcome to the 4 Point Plan. What's up, buddy?
Good morning. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
I am awesome. I'm
You've
always
been awesome.
awesome. Early in the morning, I get excited for the 4 Point Plan. You know, we've been doing this thing. This is episode 23, man. We're doing it. We're putting the word out there. We're putting the word out there about the 4 Point Plan. We're telling people, listen, man, there's four things that if you do, your chances to stay sober and have an awesome life greatly increase. Just try it. And if it doesn't work, let me know. But right now, let's look at the 4 Point Plan. Number one, go to 90 meetings in 90 days. You may hear people say 90 and 90 and wonder what the hell they're talking about. They're talking about going to a meeting every day for 3 months. Just try it for 3 months. Try it now and try it now. Number two, you want to get a sponsor. What's a sponsor? Well, think about it. Uh, Kyle Busch has sponsors on his race car. They're M&Ms and Snickers. So when you see the race car with the M&Ms running around, you know it's Kyle Busch. If you see me running around, you know I got a sponsor. I don't have a sticker on me, but I do share the message that he taught to me about the 4 Point Plan. So get a sponsor. Have someone in the program who knows what they're doing teach you how to stay sober. It's very valuable. The next thing you want to do is you want to get a home group. A home group, it's like having a home, but it's a group. It's a place where you go every week and you never miss it. You're always at your home group. And last but not least, get a service commitment. Find a way to be of service to the program that is there to save your life. Whatever program that is. Is it AA? Is it NA? Is it CA? Is it Celebrate Recovery? Is it Refuge Recovery? Is it Smart Recovery? Is it Christ Powered Recovery? There are so many recovery groups out there, I can't even keep track of them all. I need to join Weight Watchers because my ass is getting fat, but find a way to be a service to the program that's saving your life, man. Like, does that mean making coffee? Does that mean bringing the literature to the meeting? Maybe it means going there with a bottle of sanitizer and wiping down the chairs if you're meeting together during the coronavirus. Find a way to be a service to the program. 90 and 90, sponsor, home group, commitment. It's that simple. I have been working, teaching people this for a long time. And you know what? They're learning it, man. I ask them, what's the 4 Point Plan? They tell me, man, it's the 90 and 90, the sponsor, the home group, the commitment. Oh, wow, wow, I'm not even that good of a teacher, but I'm trying to brainwash people. Why would I want to brainwash people? That sounds like a spooky, dangerous situation. Are you a brainwasher? Well, the truth is, man, is when people are addicted to alcohol and drugs, their minds get a little bit dirty. If someone is drinking so much that they're throwing up all over themselves and pissing themselves, and the next day they drink again, that's insane. Why would you do that? Well, it's because your brain's a little dirty. So come to me. Let me wash your brain. Let me teach you that there's another way of life, a life worth living, a life that's awesome. The way that you get it is by doing the 4 Point Plan. How important is this 4 Point Plan? Well, let's ask a question even more importantly. How important is it to get sober? Well, if you drink once a week, maybe a glass of wine on the weekends with your friends, or maybe you smoke a doobie late Saturday night, watching wrestling, playing video games, but the rest of the week you stay sober, maybe it's not the most important thing in the world to you. But if all day, every day, you are dedicated to the idea of getting high and staying high, and you can't do anything else, and it gets in the way of your family commitments, it gets in the way of your social commitments, it gets in the way of your job or going to school, then you may have a problem, man, and maybe you need some help. If you need that help, we're here for you, man. The 4 Point Plan is here for you. You might want to check it out. I'm not saying you're an addict, but if you're saying you're an addict, come check this out, man. We're here to help. We love helping people. So, why is it important? Well, let me tell you why it's important, man. Because this thing is lethal. This thing is deadly. The disease of addiction gets in your brain, it changes your brain. This is why I talk about brainwashing people because you get brainwashed by the drugs and the alcohol. And if you're not sure the neuroscience of it, Dr. James Crossan has a brilliant PowerPoint on the internet that you can look up about the limbic system theory of addiction. Basically, what it says is if you drink and you do drugs long enough, it's going to change the physiology of your brain so that you do these things as naturally as eating, sleeping, and breathing. That the seed in your brain that controls like memory and dreams, the unconscious part of your brain becomes the part that's addicted to drugs. And so it lays down memory pathways that cause you to go ahead and get high without even thinking about it, right? Yes, we're going to offer you a program that gives you a choice. You may have lost your freedom of choice when it comes to drugs and alcohol. I know many heroin addicts that got up this morning and the first thing that they did was left their house in search of heroin. They had no other options. They had no other choice. They're physically ill, and they believe that if they don't use heroin right now, that something terrible will happen to them. It's not necessarily always true, but there will be consequences. If you're addicted to heroin and you wake up dope sick and you don't use, you're going to be dope sick. Like you're going to be nauseous. You're going to be sick to your stomach. You're not going to be feeling good physically. You're not going to be feeling good mentally. You're not going to be feeling good spiritually. We got a program that can fix that, man. We got a program that if you follow it, you're going to start feeling good physically. You're going to start feeling good mentally, and you're going to start feeling good spiritually. Now, JR, why is this important to you? People are curious. Why are you doing this 4-Point Plan podcast? Why do you get up early in the morning and dedicate yourself to this, to trying to help and save addicts and alcoholics? Why do you do it? And I don't talk a lot about it, but I'll talk about it today because it's personal for me, man. Not only am I a recovering addict, I'm also, I come from a family with a long line, a long history of drug and alcohol problems. And at a certain point, you can't ignore how the people you love impact you. Um, it's hard and it's painful to talk about, but I grew up with a big brother, Tom, who I looked up to. He was kind of my hero. He was cool as shit. He was good looking. He had lots of girlfriends. He's the one that smoked my first joint with me when I was a little kid. It kind of introduced me to the idea of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Like he loved music, man. He had a reel to reel, and back in the days of the 8-track tape player and the cassette player, some people would have these giant things look like film projectors, but they were just audio projectors, and they would run music through them. And my brother had these speakers that were fucking bigger than me. I was like 10 years old. The speakers were gigantic, and he would put on this reel to reel, and he would play music through these giant speakers, man, and it would just blow me away. And I knew without a doubt, my big brother Tom was the coolest person alive, man. He used to play that Jay Giles live song about Must Have Got Lost, because it has this real long intro. If you ever get a chance to listen to the intro to the Jay Giles live Must Have Got Lost, he talks about wooga googa, wooga booga with the big green teeth. I remember I used to stand in front of the speaker and he'd be cracking up with his long hair flying around. He'd be like, listen to this, Jamie. Wooba gooba with the big green teeth. What's that name? The girl up in the tower? Rapunzel? Reputa the Buta. Man, so that was my big brother, man. And he turned me on to music. He turned me on to my first high. He even tried to get me laid when I was like 14. My brother was a weirdo, but he was cool. He loved me. I had no question about that. And I looked up to him. And I remember one day, it was 1988. 1988. I was working at a hamburger stand in a mall. And I got a call at work. And it was from my mom. And that was odd, but it was okay. This is back before the world of cell phones. So she called the hamburger stand. Hey, JR, you got a call. It's your mom. I'm like, what the fuck is my mom calling me at work? So she says, hey, after work, I want you to come to your aunt's house. That's my mom's twin sister, who I lived with both of them growing up. And I remember finding this to be a little peculiar because my mom and my aunt, her twin sister, did not really get along at that time. I'm like, oh, why is mom at my aunt's house? It's strange. So I was acting weird during the rest of my shift, like something's going on, I gotta go home. I think I finished my shift. I went home. I walked in. My mom, my aunt, my sister were there, but they were like hiding from me. Like I could see them like walking. I walked in, and they walk in the kitchen so that they didn't have to look at me. And I thought, well, this is a very odd situation. So I went and I sat down next to my sister's husband, my brother-in-law, who I didn't like that guy very well. And I look at him, he looks at me, he goes, your brother's dead. What? Yeah, your brother OD'd. Now, my brother lived in Georgia at the time and he was super far away. And man, I was so like, this can't be true. And the first thing I said to him was, well, he thought you were a dick. Because I'm just thinking and then it hit me. It was like, what the fuck? And so finally, my mom came in the room, and my mom was a recovering drug addict herself. And they had found his body, and it had track marks. They didn't have any drugs or drug paraphernalia, but they found his body and it had track marks. And so they knew that he had died from shooting drugs. And my mom was trying to talk to me and I was hysterically crying. And I screamed at her. I said, he learned it from you. And man, I was disconnected for a long time. We, after that happened, my mom, my sister, and I drove to Georgia to get, to settle the affairs, to arrange to have his body shipped to Ohio. Yeah, we went down and while we were there, oh my God. So the story turned out, man, that my brother's body was found in his trailer. He had lived in a trailer out in this spot in Georgia, and it was the middle of the summer or the end of summer. It was hot as fuck. If you've ever been to the South in the summer, it gets super humid and hot. Really, like unbearably humid and hot. Something that people that have only lived in California can't imagine what that's like to breathe water in the air. It's just disgusting. So we go down there, and his body had been in his trailer, and what had happened is he had died of the overdose, and then he was underneath his waterbed that had like shelves, right? So, or had drawers. Someone had pulled the drawers out, maybe he had done it himself, and he was underneath where the shelving was, and that's where he died, or that's where his body was left after he died. And it sat there for 4, 5, 6 days before his friends realized he was missing. They went to his house, they broke the door down, they found his body. Okay, so he was badly decomposed. He was left to rot in this sweltering hot box. But what they figured out was that he was nude, except for his socks, and he was under his bed. And so what I figured out, this is me, like other people had different interpretations, but I knew my brother. I knew he had a hot little sexy girlfriend because I had met her. And so my interpretation was he was getting high with her. He died. She freaked out and she left. Like that would be the only explanation for why he was naked and died high. For me, that's what I got, right? So we all kind of came to the understanding that she was there. She had to have been there. So while we're in Georgia, we go to the police station. The police were talking to us and explaining to us what happened. And they were bringing the girlfriend in for questioning while we were there. Now, I don't talk a lot about my mom on this program, but I'll tell you what, my mom is badass. My mom is gangster AF, if you know what AF stands for. My mom was on the top 5 most wanted lists of the FBI at one point in 1970. My mom could probably beat up your mom, is what I'm trying to say. And my mom, in the middle of a police station filled with police officers, grabs this girl, tackles her to the ground, takes her around the neck, and starts beating her head off the floor. And the police didn't even do anything for a second. They kind of just stood there like, well, you know, it is his mom and fuck this bitch. And finally, I think maybe my sister was the one that stepped in and pulled my mom off of her. I was like, Mom, are you crazy? What are you doing? Oh man, it was so weird. And the girl, her name was Susie. Susie came
Sounds
out
like my
to the
family.
police station and gave me she saw me, she recognized me, and she gave me a
Mine
photo
too.
that she had of my brother. She handed it to me. So never saw Susie again. Obviously, she didn't come to the funeral. Um, but we finished up our business in Georgia. We arranged to have him flown home, and we did. And back in Ohio, we had a funeral for him, and his children were there, man. And it was so painful. It was so painful to lose my big brother that I looked up to and that I idolized, and it was my hero. And I'll never forget the funeral. I remember I went back to the grave a few times after that, and I used to go and leave doobies burning on the tombstone, and I'd bring Jack Daniels with me because he loved Jack Daniels, and I pour out a little Jack for the homies, right, for my brother. I was a weirdo, man. I was young. I was about 18 when he died, and I was in a lot of pain. So we understand that the disease is deadly, right? What we also need to understand is that the disease is generational. Now, I mentioned my brother had kids. He had a little girl and a little boy. And his little boy, I think, was only about 1 year old when he passed away. And while they were growing up, I lived near their mom, and I used to go and spend time with them when they were kids. And, I moved to Los Angeles in my 20s, and I kind of never went back for long. I did see them whenever I would go into town, but we stayed in touch over the years. And I remember it was probably 2009, 2010. I only had a little over a year clean. My nephew, my brother's son, had called me and asked me if he could come and stay with me. But I mean, I was living with some girl. I didn't even pay rent myself, so I couldn't offer him a place to stay. And I apologized to him for it. And I seen on Facebook that he wasn't doing well because he was selling stolen shit. I'm like, oh man, this kid's he's into trouble. What I didn't realize was he was into opiate trouble. He was into Oxycontin, heroin, fentanyl, and sure enough, man, about 6 months to a year later, he died of an overdose. So he has a daughter out in Ohio, and there's a photo that floats around the internet of his girlfriend holding his daughter right next to the coffin at the showing. And my nephew is laying there dead in the coffin, and his daughter is trying to reach into the coffin to touch him. And I saw that photo, and it ripped my fucking heart out, man. That's my nephew that I wanted to help, but I couldn't help. And obviously my brother died. My brother wanted to help me, man. When I was a drug addict, my brother wanted to help me, and he never could. And then I couldn't help him, and he ended up dead. So this is a family disease, and it has rocked my family even further than what I've talked about here today. But this is the deal, man. This is why the 4-point plan. I know how fucking bad it hurts when someone you love dies, and you feel like there's nothing you can do to help them. And I know if you're out there listening to this podcast and you're addicted to drugs, you do not want to break the hearts of the family that you love. You don't want to leave your kids without a parent. You don't want to leave your parents without their child. You don't want to do this, man. And I get it. I mean, nothing was worse than watching my mom grieve my brother. It was, and when I was doing drugs really badly, the thing that scared me the most was that I would die and cause my mother that pain again of having to bury another one of her kids because of the disease of addiction. So I understand, man, if you're a loved one of someone and someone you care about can't stop using drugs and you do not want them to die, I get that. And I got good news. We're here to help. We don't want your loved one to die either. And we're willing to teach them about the 4-point plan that'll save their life, man. This thing saves lives. If it wasn't for the 4-point plan, Sean would be dead, Guy would be dead. So many more of the people that we work with would be dead. This thing saves lives, and there's no question about it. Like there is proof in this, man. I know a girl I worked with, I seen a picture of her with a needle in her fucking neck. You think she would have kept living for long if she kept doing that? I don't think so. Well, the good news is this week she celebrated a year clean and sober. You know how she did it? The fucking 4-point plan. This shit saves lives, man. This is why. Someone says, why the 4-point plan? This is why. It fucking saves lives. I don't want any other addicts to die from the horrors of addiction. I don't want any other family members to go through the pain of burying the people they love because of the disease of addiction, man. And they don't have to. No one ever has to die from this shit, but unfortunately they keep doing it. So I'm gonna keep doing the 4-point plan, man. And I'm gonna keep telling people about the 4-point plan because this thing is actually here to save lives. We do this to save lives. So I just kind of want to open it up. I want to hear from my friends talk about, the why of the program, man. Why 4-point plan? What can it do? What have you seen it do in people's lives? So whoever wants to kick it off.
I will. JR, thanks for being able to talk about something like that. That's a tough subject. And I can relate to that a lot, as many of us addicts and alcoholics listening to this podcast and can relate. This thing affects a lot of people, a lot of families, and it's sometimes it's a generational thing that just keeps going and spreading through the family. I've had it spread in my family. I've seen it since I can remember, learned more about it from other past ancestors. I've had family members pass away because of this, that have died far too young because of addiction, plain and simple. And I was going to be next. It was plain. That was it. I was at a point where I didn't think there was a way out. This was my destiny. I'm an addict. I'm an alcoholic. That's who I am in this world. That's who I was meant to be. And I'm probably going to die because of it. It's okay. That's just who I am. I came to that realization, that hopelessness of living. I didn't know if there was a way out. I'll tell you what, though. There is a solution. I think that's why we do talk about maybe doing this 4-point plan. I think you do care, JR. I think, I know I do too. We found a way out. You were a big part of me finding that way out, getting connected into recovery and doing it with other people. Doing it with other people is part of this 4-point plan. I finally was able to let other people in, reach out, help other new people coming in. It's how this whole thing is about doing it with other people. I couldn't do it alone. I tried to do it alone for years and years and years. And that just kept me in the addiction. One step closer to that death. I guarantee I was going to be next. I know it. And today I don't have to be.
Yeah, we can get high alone, man, but we can't get sober and stay sober alone. This is a never alone program, man. You don't have to do anything by yourself. Connection solves addiction. Connection will help you getting a sponsor that you can call, man, finding people in your home group that'll care about you. That's the stuff, man, that'll save you and keep you from dying of this disease.
Yeah, thank you, JR. I've heard you talk about your brother's death before, but never like in depth, in detail, like you shared today. And it just goes to show how much we do have in common, because I have an older brother. I got 5 brothers, but one of my older brothers, Kevin, he was like my idol, and we were so close. And I looked up to him, and like I wanted to be just like him. I always wanted to impress him, and I would always do crazy shit just to make him smile and his friends. I always just want to be part of that with him. And so I know how you feel. And he struggled with addiction too. And I remember a couple of years ago he OD'd like twice in 1 month, but fortunately he didn't die. But I thought for sure, even to this day, like I talked to him yesterday, and I'm like, I love you. Like I just feel like he's not in the greatest health right now because he had some issues a long time ago. But I'm I'm scared he's gonna die, and like now he drinks, but he doesn't use opiates and shit anymore, so I don't have to worry about that. But I worry about it every day, and even every time we talk, I tell him like, "Hey, I love you. If this is the last time we talk, just know that I love you." And so we have that mutual. I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it, but I pretty much already buried him in a way, and it's sad to me, but after my mom passed away, that was like the first death I ever had to deal with was my mother, and she was like number one. She was my best friend, my rock, and dealing with that, and that was where it really set off, But if I knew about the 4 point plan back then, like getting a sponsor would have been the path that I chose back then would have been way different, obviously, but it wouldn't have led me to where I am today. Obviously, I had to work out those issues with my sponsor once I got sober. So the sponsor is so important because it gets you out of your head. And for me, anyways, the sponsor was one of the most important things that I had to get because I've always been kind of like reserved and I didn't really like to share who I was, and because there's a lot of self-centered fear that I learned. But so yeah, I can relate a lot to that. And I mean, getting a sponsor is so, even the home group, all of them is so important. But like each one has their own special like their job that they do for your recovery and your sobriety, because no matter like your home group, there's always somebody there who's been through the similar situation or knows somebody. You can always get some kind of direction to any question, any answer, any there's no life problem that somebody hasn't gone through or that won't refer you to somebody who can help you with the same problem. And that's amazing, instead of just being stuck in your own head and dealing with your own thoughts and your own judgments. And it's just so much. I'm so grateful for this program and the 4 point plan, because without it, I mean, I don't know where I would be today. And for sure, I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, there's no question, man. We are lucky. We are very fortunate to have the 4 point plan and still be alive, man. Um, you know, talking about my brother, I'm thinking of so many cool things, man. But when we went down to Georgia, uh, and we went to his trailer to see if there were any things that we wanted to bring back, we went in and he had a bulletin board and it was a cork board. And on the cork board, he had a photograph, a snapshot of me, uh, all with a mohawk and like leather jacket, bandanas, like a 1980s, right? Weirdo. And next to it, there was a Zippy cartoon that he had cut out of the newspaper and he attached it to my photo. And it was not Zippy, Ziggy. Ziggy was sitting in a chair and the radio was on, and the radio said, "This news update just in, punk rock is dead." So every day he would look at a picture of me and think about punk rock. And I think that was pretty cool, man. It's nice to reminisce and realize that my brother loved me and thought about me. The family disease aspect of this thing, man, and the fact that this is killing family is so horrific. I had a friend who I got sober with almost the exact same time, a girl, and she and I had both struggled to get sober for a long time. We had been going to the same meeting and relapsing over and over. And we weren't the kind of people that went out and used together. We just got along great when we saw each other at meetings, and so we had both been sober for 3 years, 2 or 3 years. When I would sit in a meeting in a different part of town, and she walked in with her little brother, and I'm sure I've talked about this guy before because she came up to me and she's like, "Hey, Jr., my brother keeps relapsing. He keeps ODing. He shoots heroin like a madman. We're afraid he's gonna die. Would you be willing to sponsor him?" Now, this is my memory of it, and it may be skewed on the fact that I look at my story and how fortunate I was to survive my addiction. Um, and I took a lot of the weight and responsibility on Brandon, and the reason that he must have asked me is because he thought that I could save his life. Well, his sister and I were friends. I dedicated myself to him. I took him to meetings. I always did whatever I could to try to help him. I used to go pick him up from the rehab. We would go get something to eat, and then we'd go to a meeting. The problem was we weren't doing a lot of step work, and he wasn't consistently calling me. He would try for a little while, then he would back off. And I never like forced anybody to do the 4-point plan. I always told them about it, but I didn't force it. I figured, it'll come to them when they're ready. But not with Brandon, man. He was never ready. Like one time I got a phone call from him. He was like, "Hey, JR, I'm sitting here with my therapist, and we figured out that I'm not calling my sponsor enough. So I thought I would call you and tell you that I'm gonna start calling you." I was like, "Okay, that's cool." And then he didn't call me again, right? And then he relapsed. He got kicked out of rehab. And then I got the phone call, man, that he overdosed, and so in the hospital, I had to wait for his family to arrive before I could go in the room where he had passed away in the emergency room. So I'm standing in the hallway, and his sister, the girl that had asked me to sponsor him, she came around the corner, and when she did, we locked eyes, and we both burst into tears. And together with their other sister and brother-in-law, the four of us walked into the room where Brandon laid there on a steel slab with a fucking tube still sticking out of his mouth. I don't know why they left him like that, but they did. And his sisters just were so devastated. And because I knew the one sister pretty well, I know that she was devastated for a long, long time after that too. I felt guilty. I felt like, it's my fault, because why would he ask me to sponsor him? Probably because he figured I had the experience to help him stay alive. And at that time, I certainly didn't. And I guess even now, none of us are gods. We can't force someone to stay clean and stay alive. But I do have several more years of experience in recovery now. And I've kind of figured out exactly what the components are of the 4-point plan. And now I will, tell people that ask me, this is how you do it. Yeah, there might be fucking other ways to do it, but they're not the way I did it. This is how I did it, man. Do the 4-point plan if you want to stay alive. Go to a meeting every day. Call your sponsor every day. Never miss your home group. Never fuck off your commitments. If you say that you're going to show up and make coffee, you show up every fucking week and make coffee. You ever go to a meeting and there's no coffee because the coffee guy flaked on his commitment? Fuck that meeting.
Not good.
Coffee guy.
Not good.
That's all bad.
Do the 4-point plan, man. You'll stay alive, and maybe you won't break the hearts of the people that love you anymore. And maybe you won't give them the ultimate heartbreak, man, because that's what happens. Like, when you die, the people that love you are fucking broken for a long time. And in some ways, they never go all the way back together. I mean, in my case, man, I've never fully recovered from the loss of my brother, from my fucking hero.
You probably never will.
The dude did smoke my first doobie with me. So when The Outsiders came out at the movie theaters, I had read the book and I loved the book, and it was an all-star cast. And the day it came out, we had made plans. He was going to take me to see The Outsiders. So we're sitting at the movie theater in his car, and he pulls out a doobie.
Nice.
And he says, "All right, well, Jamie, we smoke this doobie. We can either go in and see this movie, or we can go get some pussy." And I think I was fucking 14. I was young. I was a little kid. And I was like, wait a minute, what? Get some pussy, what?
No, not what? Outsiders.
I was a virgin. So I was like, I think I'm more interested in, I don't know. So ultimately, I think what we did was we smoked the doobie and we didn't do either. Because that's what smoking weed,
right.
that's what smoking weed will make you do. Smoking weed will make you do nothing.
Those are great memories, though. Those are great memories to have, like that. I got some great memories of my brother, and I hope we can make more. We haven't been as close as we used to be, lately, but it's like how you talked about how disease runs in the family, and I believe that because my dad is an alcoholic, and I believe my grandfather was an alcoholic, but he had it. I think he had it maintained. He controlled it, like he had a business, and but I didn't. I don't have any memories of him being drunk or anything. But I heard from a couple family members that did. He did have a drinking problem, and or maybe it was my grandma. I can't remember. One of them did, but I know my dad did for sure. My uncle, at least one of my uncle had a drug problem. But my dad had five boys, and I know me and my older brother Kevin. We have five brothers. Four older, two were younger, and I know at least two of us are, alcoholics or addicts. Like me and my brother Kevin, we have the same mom, same dad. Then I have two other brothers, Carl and Kelly. They have the same dad with different mom, and I'm pretty sure they're not alcoholics or addicts because I'm pretty sure they're not. So I don't know. Maybe just they got the genes of their mother, but maybe it kind of scares me because I have two kids, and I hope it jumps, I hope it bypasses them, But if for whatever reason they do become alcoholics or addicts, and at least I'll have knowledge of how to kind of steer it and handle it if it happens. So it scares me, but
Yeah,
it's their journey. I just do the best I can and lead by example. And from learning from this the 4 point plan and from the Alcoholics Anonymous is will help me do that.
there's been a lot of studies about what causes this. Is it genetic? Is it hereditary? And because there are so many whose parents were addicts who went on to become addicts, they cannot rule it out. They can't say it's not hereditary. But at the same time, when we're in the discussion of nature versus nurture, we see some people grow up in the same exact homes with the same exact upbringing, and it could be siblings, it could even be twins, and one becomes an addict and one never becomes an addict. Sometimes they never even try drugs. It's it's real hard to pin down. But I think what we have to consider is it's got to be a possibility. Like if you were an addict and your kid become an addict, yeah, it's pretty possible. It happens. It happens a lot. But then there's also the chance that maybe it won't happen. If you're a parent and your kid is an addict, are you going to beat yourself up and say, was it in my genetics? Was it something that because I had an uncle who was an alcoholic, it caused my son to become a crack addict? There is supporting evidence to say yes, and there's supporting evidence to say, well, maybe no. Um, I don't think we have power to determine who's going to get this disease. What we do have the power to do, though, is make a choice what to do when the disease shows up. If someone you know or love, an addict or an alcoholic, and they can't stop using drugs, they can't stop drinking, introduce them to the 4 point plan. This thing is what works. There are scientists that say that this connection to other people is what's going to help somebody. I love this because Johan Hari talks about it in his famous TED Talk about the opposite of addiction. He talks about Rat Park. Our understanding of what causes addiction was based on these experiments where they put a rat in a cage and they give it two water bottles, one just regular water and one a water bottle with cocaine in it. And the rat would drink the cocaine water until it died. And so we believed that if someone was exposed to cocaine or heroin or other hard drugs, they would always choose that and probably do it until they died. And then the Rat Park experiment came in. A scientist named Bruce Alexander said, well, look at this cage, man. What if we change the cage? And so he built a larger cage and he put a wheel in it for them to run on and little tubes to play in and cheese to little bit of technical difficulties, but hey, I was talking about the Rat Park, so this should segue quickly into it. The rat in the empty cage drank the cocaine water till it died. This scientist, Bruce Alexander, creates another cage with lots of stuff in it, and then he puts other rats in it. And this is the key component to this, is he builds a community inside Rat Park. And what happens with the water? They still have a bottle of regular water and a bottle of cocaine water. But in the Rat Park cage, the rats almost never drink the cocaine water and they never drink it until they die. So what we can learn from this experiment is, yes, if you're alone in a cage and given no choice but water or cocaine, you may do cocaine till you die, or maybe you'll do it every single time until you die. But if you're put in a cage with lots of other people to hang out with and to have a community with, and you're given the choice of drinking regular water or using drugs till you die, you're going to just drink regular water and you're going to participate in that community. We believe that connecting to other people is what helps you stay alive. And that's what the 4 point plan fosters. It creates community. Look at it real close again, one more time. 90 meetings in 90 days. If you go to a meeting every day for 90 days, it is virtually impossible for you to not talk to anybody, for you to not make any friends. If you get a sponsor and you call that sponsor every day, you're no longer isolating. You're no longer alone in the world by yourself, because at least once a day you're talking to that one other person who has one goal, and that's to help you stay clean and sober. If you have a home group and you're going to be at that home group every single week, if you miss a week, the people in your home group are going to notice and they're going to call you and they're going to make sure that you're okay. You're no longer alone in the world if you have a home group, because you got home group members that notice you and care about you. And if you get commitments, well, you got to show up. People are expecting you to be there, and you got to show up to provide a service to other people, not just being a service to yourself anymore. Now you're finding a way to give back to the community. So these are all really important pieces in the idea of connecting to other people, not being alone, and not having a reason to do drugs until you die. You now have a reason to live. If you do the 4 point plan, you're going to have a reason to live. If you do the 4 point plan, you're going to have a life that is not what you expected. It's not the life that you had before. Guy heard me say this just the other day. When I was using drugs, man, I could never have the life that I dreamed of because I couldn't stop doing drugs. Now, because of the 4 point plan, my possibilities are endless. I can finally be the person that I always wanted to be, but I was never able to be because I couldn't stop doing drugs. The 4 point plan helps me stay off drugs and be the person I've always dreamed of being. And it's true. Like, I am so freaking cool now, I can't stand it. Thanks to the 4 point plan, I went back to pro wrestling. I won the heavyweight championship of the world 9 times. Because of the 4 point plan, I went back to college, and this next upcoming summer, I'll be graduating with a master's degree from Pepperdine. I have a life that I never dreamed. It's so cool, man. It's so great. And I owe it to the 4 point plan.
Yeah, I look up to you, JR. Like your story and like where you've been and what you've accomplished is what really attracted me. And I remember when I first met you and I seen your arms, and it was just mind blowing to me that but how you deliver your story was what attracted me, because it was you do it with a comical flow, but it's serious and it's real. And just the time where he said, he goes, yeah, I'm gonna have to learn how to shoot up with my feet because they're gonna cut my arms off, and like that desperation and that this that feeling of being bonded to your addiction, and how you accomplished, how you got over it, and like now you're where you are today, like the Pepperdine, and the stories that you tell of how you used to be. Like, I try to picture you in that time era, and I'm like, there's like just being in the mind frame of, yeah, I don't think I'll ever be able to accomplish these things is what attracted me. So obviously it worked for you. So I dove into it, and the connection thing is so valid. Like your Rat Park, and AA is in the 4 point plan is where I made my own Rat Park and my own connections, my own support group, and I can call hundreds of people at any time of the day, and they'll be there. It um it's it's so simple. It really is. It's once you start doing your 90 just getting to the meeting every day, the rest will fall into place as it's supposed to. I promise you. If I can get sober, trust me, pretty much anybody can. 'Cause it took me a long time, and like JR said, like I wanted to be I knew what I was capable of being, but I just continued. But I love getting loaded, and I would get loaded, and it would always stop my progression in life. And I would just like settle with it, and like, all right, well, I guess I'll just be an addict or an alcoholic for the rest of my life. But I didn't really want to be, and this is how I got over that. The 4 point plan is how my dreams are becoming true now. Before the 4 point plan, I was fulfilling my darkest dreams. Now I'm building my wildest dreams.
That's a good point, Sean, because Guy touched on it earlier. It's not our destiny. It's not our destiny to die from this disease. We're not fucking doomed. I believed that shit, man. After I buried my brother, man, I believed that my mom was gonna bury me right next to my brother with a needle in my arm, just the exact same way. I thought it was my destiny and I was doomed to fulfill that destiny. And I had no idea, man, the 4 point plan was going to rewrite the script. It was going to flip the script. It was going to give me a new lease on life. It was going to give me a life beyond my wild. I had no idea. I had no idea that things could change so perfectly, man. And it's all because of 4 point plan. I have a hard time picturing the Sean, the criminal Sean, the skinny Sean living in a car, because I don't see that Sean. I see the healthy Sean that's a good father and a good family man and a hard worker. And he's smart. Like, it's hard for me to picture the addict Sean. So you did not have to fulfill that doom or that destiny that you thought maybe you needed. And Guy did not have to fulfill his destiny. I gotta admit, though, Guy took it right there to the fucking edge. those
Yeah.
those of you who haven't listened to Guy's story, it's in there. It's on the 4 point plan.
Yeah. You know what? This 4 point plan it's a solution. It was the way out for me. We talked a lot about today about the addiction in family and where we came from, how it affected other people in our family, how we affect other people in our family. All true. I talk to newcomers about this all the time. I spent many years in my active addiction, drinking and drugging, trying to figure out why. That was my big question. Why? Is it because it's in my genes? Is it because I grew up watching it? Is it because the dysfunctional part of my family? Is it? Well, I don't know. What is it? Why? Why? What? The whole time, my solution was this: boom, boom. Just keep on doing it. I didn't think there was a way out. I was just trying to figure out, why was I like that? Things started happening to me. All right. Yeah. What I was saying, I think we got a little bad connection there, but what I was saying, I spent many years in my active addiction trying to figure out why. We talked about the family, and, we all come from different people in addiction. We see it in our family. A lot of us, we have it for generations. Is it in our blood? I used to ask myself, is it because it's in my genes? Is it because I grew up this way? For years and years and years, I was asking, why am I like this? Why? At the whole time, I'm still destroying myself. My solution was to drink more, was to do more drugs. That was my solution while I'm trying to figure out why. Why? When I finally got tired of asking why, and I just accepted the fact that I am, I started asking how. That's when it started coming to me. I started asking how. You want to call it surrender, whatever it may be. How do I get out of it? 4 point plan was something that I learned that was going to keep me out of this. And it works. It has worked for me so far. It let me build that connection that JR was talking about with other people in recovery. I'm not doing it alone. Go figure. It's a way out. And I hope maybe somebody can listen to this and try this thing if they want a way out of this.
So yeah, we asked why, man. Why are we addicts? Why do Sean and Guy and JR get up early and do the 4 point plan podcast, man? And the reason why is because no addict ever needs to die from the horrors of addiction. We do this, man. We don't do this for money. We do this because we care. because we know what it's like, man, to feel trapped, like there's no way out. We know what it's like to hurt because people we love are being devastated by this disease. We understand. That's why we do this, man. And that's why we're going to keep on doing it. We're going to keep spreading the message of the 4-point plan. And hopefully, man, maybe it'll save some lives. Maybe, dude, if it saves one life, if one person comes along and hears about the 4-point plan, holds on to it, it's all worth it. And lucky for us, each of us knows at least one person that the 4-point plan is directly impacted and it's helped save their life. So that's why we're doing it, man. And that's why I'm going to keep doing it. Like, I don't know how everybody perceives this or receives it, but I'm going to keep putting it out there, man. I don't have any intention of stopping because, man, when I see people like Sean and Guy and other people that I see the 4-point plan work on, it all becomes worth it, man. Because I know where I would be if it wasn't for the 4-point plan. I'd be in a grave right next to my brother, breaking my mom's heart again, man. And I don't want to break the hearts of the people I love anymore. I want a life beyond my wildest dreams, and I want to share that with other people, right?
Yep. So just get connection, build your own rat park, find a connection, get your home group, get your sponsor, get some sober connection, people that you, if they're not sober and you don't really need them in your life unless they're family. But even then, even if you're family, like some of my family members, yeah, they're my family, but we don't have to be friends. Like if they're not supportive of my recovery and they're not any good, any positive influences in my life, I don't need them in my life. I'd be respectful to them, holidays or whatever, but it goes with acquaintances. If it's not, if it's a threat to my sobriety, I won't have it anywhere in my life. And this, because I can go off real quick. Build a connection. Build your own rat park.
Why are you doing this, Guy?
Because it's saving my life, and by me letting somebody else know about it, it might save their life, and by saving their life, that's part of that connection. It saves my life in return. Pretty simple.
It's a symbiotic relationship, man, and it's working for us. We're loving it. The 4-point plan is saving my life, it's saving Sean's life, it's saving Guy's life, and hopefully it too can save your life. So please keep coming back to the 4-point plan. We'll try to get our technical difficulties cleared up, and we're gonna keep being here, man. We love you. Stay clean, stay safe in the holidays and the coronavirus. See you next week. Woo!